After draining the coolant, you're going to remove the upper radiator hose. Just pull it back out of your way. Okay. Then you're going to use an 8mm socket to remove the two mounting bolts for the fan shroud. Okay, I've already started on these. Alright, pull this out. Pull this out. Remove. You're gonna down there. If you can see, there's two little clips. Just pull up, and they pops out. And you place it out of your way. Now put these screws back in here so you don't lose them. Okay. Now take a look at that. That is the thermostat housing, and you can see all that rust there. So this cooling system hasn't had any coolant in it, so it's corroding. I'm probably gonna have to flush the system out. Now, if you look down in there, you'll see 4 bolts that are holding the fan and the clutch assembly. On V6 models, you need a special tool to remove the fan and the fan clutch, but luckily for me, I have the 4-cylinder, which all you have to do is remove these 4 mounting bolts, and that's going to be a 10mm socket. Okay, so we're going to remove that, and we're going to go on to the next step, which is removing the water pump pulley. Okay, you're going to notice that when you try to remove the 4 bolts from the fan to separate it from the clutch assembly, that it's going to want to spin on you. Okay, in order to prevent this, just if you need to, wear a pair of gloves. Just hold one of the blades, and and then start unbolting counterclockwise. After you remove those 4 bolts, then your fan blade will be free. You can remove that and inspect it. Check your blades. If you need, replace the whole fan blade, which is cheap. It's mostly plastic. Now you're going to see that once you remove that, you're still not home free, because the shroud still cannot be removed until the clutch assembly is removed, which is right here and is held on to by 4 bolts right there. Same concept, you just hold the clutch assembly to keep it from spinning, remove those 4 bolts, and you'll be able to have access to the pulley, and also remove the shroud. Okay, now to remove these 4 bolts, in order to disassemble the fan clutch assembly from the pulley, I'm going to use 10mm wrench and an adjustable wrench here, just to hold it to keep the pulley from spinning, and you loosen it a few turns, and then you move on to the next one. So once you get them all off, and once you get to the last one, you might have to actually, this is free turning, so you might have to put a screwdriver or something in there, or just hold the pulley with your hand to pop that last nut. So once we get that disassembled, we'll be able to take off the fan shroud and the fan clutch assembly, and we'll go on. Okay, there's thermostat housing. There's one bolt, and the other bolt is directly across on the other side. Okay, remove that, remove those 2 bolts, and then you're going to pretty much break the seal, and you're going to have to replace the gasket when you put the housing back on. But anyways, that's the next step, is to remove this thermostat housing. And then after that, we're going to be removing some pulleys and the AC compressor, which is this right here, as well as the drive belt, which is the serpentine belt here, which runs across all this pulley system. So we'll get back to that. Okay, after loosening the 2 bolts, you can see this one here. The other one you probably can't see, it's behind here, but believe me, it's there. 2 bolts holding that thermostat housing. There's one other hose connected here to the thermostat housing. So you're going to release that clamp, pull that hose apart, remove the thermostat housing, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay, after removing the 2 bolts from the thermostat housing, you'll notice that it's connected by a hose here. Just remove the, just press on the hose clamp, slide it back so you can remove it from the tube here, from the piping here. And there's also the water temperature sensor connection right there. You're going to want to remove that, and the thermostat housing should be able to come out easily. And remember, you're going to have to replace that gasket when you install it. After removing the thermostat housing, there's the rest of my thermostat, which is deteriorated, so I'm either going to replace it or just leave it out, because it appears it wasn't running with thermostat this whole time. That's probably why the engine didn't heat up. So now this is what you see after all that's removed. Now the next step I'm going to take is to remove the drive belts. And in order to remove the drive belts, I'm going to take a 3/8 ratchet. There's a tensioner pulley assembly. Pop it in there. There's a little groove for it, 3/8. Pull back on the tensioner assembly. And I don't have any hands free, but once you pull back on that belt should just slip right off. And we'll get back to the next step. After removing the thermostat housing, there's the rest of my thermostat, which is deteriorated, so I'm either going to replace it or just leave it out, because it appears it wasn't running with thermostat this whole time. That's probably why the engine didn't heat up. So now this is what you see after all that's removed. Now the next step I'm going to take is to remove the drive belts. And in order to remove the drive belts, I'm going to take a 3/8 ratchet. There's a tensioner pulley assembly. Pop it in there. There's a little groove for it, 3/8. Pull back on the tensioner assembly. And I don't have any hands free, but once you pull back on that belt should just slip right off. And we'll get back to the next step. Okay, once you remove the drive belt, the water pump pulley should come right off. Take that to the side. Okay, let's see. Now, you still can't take the timing belt cover off, this right here, because the AC compressor is blocking it right here in this section. So we're going to have to loosen these 4 bolts, which are 10mm bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've started to loosen them already. You see, do not disconnect the hoses because they're still pressurized. So we're going to take these 4 bolts off, we're going to pop this off and move it out of our way so that we can remove the timing belt cover. And before we can do that, we also have to remove some other pulleys. So we'll get back to that in just a little bit. Okay, now to remove the mounting bracket for the air compressor, you got 3 13mm bolts, one here, one there, one there, and a 10mm bolt here, which I'm working on. Pretty much almost done here. You see, this is loose. After you remove those 4 bolts, you'll be able to get this whole assembly out of the way so that you can remove the timing belt cover. And finally, we're making some progress here. So the AC compressor is dismounted off to the side. The bolts are taken off of the bracket, which the AC compressor's off. That's loose, out of the way. Come around this side. Now we have access to pull this panel off, the cover to the timing belt. We have 1 bolt here, 1 bolt down here. You see my finger? They're both 8mm, and once you take those off, you can finally unveil the timing belt cover, and wait till you see this. It is in pretty bad shape. We'll be back with the next one. Okay, now that we have all the bolts off the timing belt cover out on timing belt exterior housing, you see the TC mark here, and there's a little groove that goes inward like a little notch. It lines up with this timing mark on the crankshaft pulley right here. You see that little line? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, that's not the only thing you have to go by. You also have to go by two other timing marks. One is right here. You see where this little triangle is? It should match up with the triangle on the camshaft pulley. Can you see that?
Hold on. Let it focus. Put the light back on. Ooh. Okay. Triangle 1.
There's a triangle way up in
It's
here
trying to focus,
by the
but we'll
sprocket.
keep moving.
By the sprocket. Can you see it?
That's triangle 1, and then there's a triangle right there, a little outline triangle.
Okay, what were your fingers in there?
There you go. 1, 2. See it? Right?
Okay.
And then
Now
there's one last one.
One more here. There's a diamond on the inner timing belt cover. There's a diamond which matches up with a diamond which is grooved onto the sprocket here.
Number 1, number 2. Number 1
for the oil pump sprocket / pulley. Okay. Now that means that our number 1, the piston on the number 1 cylinder is at top dead center on the compression stroke. Now in order to get to this, if you just focus down here, I'm going to turn it back just a little bit, and remember your engine normally turns clockwise. I'm going to turn just counterclockwise just a bit so we can rewind, just to show you that this can be moved manually. And it's going to take a few turns till you get them all lined up. You're going to get one lined up, get this one lined up. Then when this one's lined up, you keep turning till you get this one lined up, and then you keep turning till you get this one lined up down here. Okay, so Jesse, if you'll help me here, let me know when I'm lined up there.
I can't really, I don't have no light.
Okay.
I need your magnetic light.
There you go. Let me know when we're lined up there, top dead center.
Going just a little bit more. There.
Okay. Now we're aligned at top dead center. Now we can loosen the pivot and adjusting bolt on the belt tensioner pulley here for the timing belt, and then we can finally remove the timing belt. Remember, do not remove it until you're top dead center, and do not move the crankshaft pulley or any other gears until you fully reinstall the new timing belt. And there's a certain procedure to do that so that you do it correctly, and because otherwise if you're off by one notch, then that can throw the timing off, and it's not good for your engine.